So I think we can all agree that in recent times, censorship in video games and the way that the video game landscape has been going hasn't really been going in the direction that a lot of us actual gamers, and I mean actual people who really put time and effort into video games and play many different types of video games, have actually been wanting it to go. And one of the great examples of where like censorship is starting to become a very more adamant is in the Dragon Quest remake. Recently, Dragon Quest, so specifically it's Dragon Quest 3, they are currently remaking that game. It's an old classic game. I mean, I myself didn't play it as it is like a bit before my time. I am a little bit old. I was born in 98, but that doesn't make me as old as a lot of other people do. But the original game came out back in like 1988. It's like one of those like founding fathers of video games. It's like what made the RPG genre what it is today, thanks to like the Dragon Quest series. And they are currently remaking it. But unfortunately, there has been a little bit of censorship that's going on with it, specifically when it comes to some of the clothing on some of the characters within the game. This is one great example right here. This is one of the character designs within the original game here on the left, and then the censorship that's being put in the modern game on the right. Now, if you see this at first, you might not think this isn't really that much of a big deal. But if you really think about it carefully, you kind of go, why is it that they're actually doing this? Like, what's so bad about her design on the left? It's a little bit sexualized, but that's how the original creators wanted it. And to be honest, what's wrong with that? The female body is extremely beautiful, and it should be something that should be designed, and it's a piece of artwork. So why is it that they're going ahead and covering something up like this? And that's what a lot of gamers have been saying. A lot of people who have been covering this and like watching the Dragon Quest series have been going like, what is the reason why they're doing this? This is just like a bit of a censorship mess. And now the Dragon Quest creator himself and an editor of Dragon Ball Z, one of the old like Shonen editors, has come out and spoken their minds about this entire censorship that's been going on within the West specifically, because that's where it's been happening. And I'll tell you right now, they speak their minds in what pretty much everyone is saying.
あとすごい話題になってたそのコスチュームとか当時とそのままなのかどうなのかみたいなのがありましたよね、また。
まあね、いろいろ規制もあってね、露出してきちゃいけないとかね。
そこ、まあちょっとあんまり深掘りする気はないんですけど、いいのにだってフィクションだけどその中に主人公というあなたが入って冒険するっていうことでいいじゃないと思うんですけど、違うんですかね。
なんですかね。よくわかんないですけどね、これについてはね。
ゲームだし、まあフィクションという自分の中のこうバーチャル体験でのノンフィクションだから楽しくければいいのにっていう。ふうに思っちゃいますけどね。あんまり露出するとね、年齢が上がっちゃうっていうね。全年齢じゃなくなってしまうっていうのがあったりとか。
ルールがやっぱなんか各国違ったりするんでね。広く売ろうと思うと一番厳しいところに合わせざるを得ないとか。
でも当時そんなこと思わなかったですけどね。
コンプラっていう名のね、やっぱりね、ある種のね、なんだろうな、絶対心というべき、善の名を借りた悪みたいなのがあるよね。全員が不快感を覚えないなんてことはないわけ。だって不快なことを覚える動向でもいいわけよ。だって綺麗汚いとかさ、善悪って人それぞれに感じ方があるわけじゃん。で物事はやっぱり根っこにあるのはやっぱり絶対やっちゃいけないことだけいくつかあって、それをさえやらなきゃあとはいいじゃないって、そういうのがないわけよ。だからやっぱり英米の方から来てるその宗教的な概念から来るその正教徒の考え方ってアメリカにあるじゃない。彼らのコンプラの考え方って本当ね狭い。でだから向こうでコミックス出す時に全部その年齢で区切ってやらなきゃいけない。少年ジャンプの漫画だったら13アップ、13歳以上じゃないと出せない。私は全部リテイク入れなきゃいけない。でそれを訴訟が起きるそのために保険も入らなきゃいけない。もうこんなねバカな国とねやるの本当面倒くさい。でそっから日本も悪影響を受けてやってるから、
主人公もね男女選べるんだけど、男女選ぶって書いていけないのね。タイプ1タイプ2なのね。
ねえ。
こういう男女って誰が一体文句言うんだろうと思うんだけど、わからない。
So that is a clip right there at the start, it shows exactly who these people are, gives them a little bit of a title, and then obviously with the translations at the bottom. So that was from the recent Tokyo Game Show that's been going on. A lot of great games have been shown during that Tokyo Game Show. I've been very intrigued to see all the new trailers that have been coming out. But I am so glad that they were asked about this, because like I said, this has been going on for a long time, especially in the Western culture. And when it comes to the Japanese culture, yes, we get a little bit of their say from when we get their content and it's brought over to the West, and then the West start censoring this. We get a lot of Japanese people are speaking out on the internet. Unfortunately, some big conglomerates actually don't speak about this whenever these people in Japan are actually speaking their minds about when it comes to Western censorship. So they don't really cover it because it's more just the people. But the fact that someone as big as these two, the original creator of Dragon Quest and also a Dragon Ball Z editor and Shonen editor, is speaking out about this, about how ridiculous a lot of the censorship within the West is amazing to see. Because then maybe we'll actually start to get people listening and actually start to get people saying that, hey, maybe the censorship that's going on in the West is actually quite ridiculous. Because to me, it is. And it's kind of getting worse, and it's just going beyond censorship as well. Because if you're probably watching this video, there might be a slight chance you're going Donnie, you know what? When it comes to this censorship specifically in Dragon's Quest, I don't really see this much as a big deal. And that's absolutely fair. That's understandable. If you're just seeing it from an outsider's perspective and you're just going ahead and you're looking at this, the image that I showed earlier, where they're just covering up her chest area and her genital area as well, making it less revealing. And at first you might be saying, that's really not that bad. There's probably a lot worse censorship that's out there. But that's the thing, is where it gets you, is that if you start allowing censorship like this to happen, where it's just small things, eventually bigger censorship is going to start being tested. That's what's going to happen over time, is that at first it will start off with just this, and then before you know it, we'll get more censorship, and then other things will start to be implemented into video games as well, which we've seen in recent times. How many video games recently have failed because these companies are trying to inject certain things into video games that actually audiences don't want, and then they're failing. One great example when it comes to video games being injected and these whole entire certain small things that are being put into video games and concentrating more on that than the video game itself is Concord. I mean, Concord is a great example because it seemed that they were concentrating more on certain messages within the game than the actual gameplay itself. They were concentrating more on trying to make it more diverse and trying to make it more this, trying to make it more that, push it to be this big thing. But it turned out crap because the actual elements of the game weren't really concentrated on. Instead, they were making a big thing about the whole entire, pronouns being in the game, which I don't really think is a big deal. But to me, it's just if you're really adding that and you're concentrating on something like that into a video game, well, it's kind of clear that you're not focusing on character design or you're not focusing on gameplay itself. You're too busy worried about these smaller things. And then you get that toxic positivity that was actually talked about from game devs. Game devs that worked on Concord have come out, talked about this toxic positivity. And like I said, all this kind of stuff relates together because like these guys said in the initial video, is that people who are doing this, it's like a hidden evil. It's on the outside, they seem as though they're working towards a great thing. They're going towards and saying hey, we're doing this censorship, or we're adding these certain things into this video game. We're adding these small things into this because we're doing it for the greater good. But really, if you actually take a step back and you think about it, they're not doing it for the greater good. They're doing it for their own image. They're doing it for their own self-worth and actually don't care about the audience itself. And as a matter of fact, it's actually going backwards in what they're trying to do. That's why censorship like this is terrible. And obviously, it hurts the perception of the Western world to other countries as well. Obviously it says is that it negatively influences Japan. as someone who's like, I'm not from America directly, I'm from Australia, but obviously we are considered more of a Western culture, even though we are like in the Oceania and we're, you know, south of Asia. We would have more of a culture related to America and like UK and the Western society than we do, say, like Asian culture and the Eastern culture. It's definitely more towards us. So when they say something like that, it definitely hits home a little bit because we are more towards that Western type of culture that we have here in Australia. And to say that we're negatively influencing another country, to me, I'd feel ashamed of that. To be negatively influencing another country in a way that they don't want is terrible. Like, why should we be altering what someone else is making? Why should we be trying to alter what other people think and how other people view things? That's not what you should be doing. You shouldn't be trying to shove certain things down people's minds and change things that they don't want to be changed. That's what's happening with Dragon Quest right now, is that it's a complete censorship mess, because a lot of stuff like this, like I said, that's just one example of what I showed earlier. But there's also different examples that are shown within this game. And like I said, if this is all that they're showing at face value, could you just imagine the other things that they're going to try and censor within this game as well? And if that gets passed, and not enough people say things about this, then we're going to get more censorship into video games. Then we're going to get more censorship onto certain things. And then more stuff's going to get pushed into media that we don't want to be pushed in the media. Because to be honest, when I play a video game, I want to be indulged in a fictional world. I don't play video games to be reminded of things that go on in the real world. I play video games to escape from those things. So I don't want to be reminded and have things that are in the real world shoved in front of my face. If I'm playing a video game, I want to be fully immersed into that game itself. I don't want to have to deal with certain things. I don't want to have censorship be put in front of my face. I want to be able to have as much freedom as there is possible. And I want the authors and the original people who made that source material, I want their vision to be shown as much as possible so I can be immersed in that game as much as possible when I am playing. But that's just honestly my opinion. I feel like I have a bit more of an extreme opinion when it comes to like maybe some other people. And if you don't, you're not as much on my opinion and maybe you don't agree with everything that I have said in this video, that's absolutely fine. But I think that one thing that you should definitely agree on is that any type of censorship, whether it's small or large in video games, is not good. It's not for your benefit. No matter if you agreed or disagree with some of my points, I'm telling you right now that censorship within video games is not good, because it's just going to lead to more problematic things coming within your video games and within your media altogether. And you can see it if you have to look at just general media. A lot of things that have been censored over time have not been for the benefit of the user. But I would definitely like to hear what you guys think about all this down below. That's going to be it from me. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.